bringing you up to date on all the action from a busy weekend of women's soccer. This is USL Super League Game Week on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome into Game Week on SiriusXM, where every single week we take a deep dive into the USL Super League. We talk with coaches and players across the league and give you all the up-to-date information as we get closer to playoffs. Joined, as always, by my co-host Marion Crowder. I'm Anna Witte. Well, we've got a jam-packed show, and I say that every single week, but we're going to get into it because we're talking about head coach Jo Johnson announcing her leaving of the Super League, Lexington Pro Girls Academy, some exciting news happening there, some playoff predictions we're revisiting from 6 weeks ago, and Fort Lauderdale's Cosette Morché joins the show. Wow, Marion, wasn't expecting this news. Honestly, last Wednesday, I opened up my Twitter account right after we published Game Week, and it was announced that Spokane's head coach Jo Johnson will step down after the season concludes and will return to her hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, to focus on her family. Johnson will be coaching at the collegiate level, where she previously was an assistant at the University of Tulsa. Not exactly sure where she's going back, but good luck to Coach Johnson. This is interesting because Spokane has had the best spring season out of almost anyone in the league outside of Carolina. Right now, they're 10-8-8, 2 games left in that last playoff spot. Marion, what do you think about the timing of this announcement?
I think it's quite interesting, to say the least. I mean, you have a team who you just laid out has been the storyline of the spring and has been just looking exceptionally well. They've got 2 games remaining, a playoff spot on the line. And those 2 games remaining, not just that, but you also have to watch things that are happening around the league. It's not a shoo-in if you win those 2 games that you're going to get into that 4th spot. But it's been a team who has been very vocal about their intent for the spring, which is not just to make the playoffs. It is to win the league. Jo Johnson even said that herself in a press release. So I think to distract from that is a little interesting. Now, granted, we've had Jo on the show, and she has spoken very openly and very candidly about the challenges of being a mom, having a young family, and the step up to the professional ranks. As you know, Anna, it is a lot, right? So it's not that it doesn't make sense to me. I think it's interesting timing, especially given the fact that we weren't given information about where Jo is heading next to the college ranks. Makes you wonder, is there something lined up? Is there not? I don't know. But to have this announcement come down and then to also in the same, breath be going to coach your team to a potential playoff run and the hopes to win a title is just a bit of interesting timing to me. What do you make of it?
Completely agree on this being really interesting timing for Johnson. The fact that we're not exactly sure where she's going next, and the fact that this is a team who's been really good. And a lot of the reason Spokane has been good is because of what Johnson has implemented in the first year. And not saying this isn't the right step for her career, but this is a team that really has linked into the coach. And when your coach makes a decision and makes a public announcement, that certainly changes things as a player, knowing that the system isn't going to look the same next season. Things are going to change holistically. Maybe some of the numbers won't fit the next system. Not saying that you don't still want to win. You don't want to still fight till the very end. Of course, these are professional athletes, but that certainly changes how you think about Spokane for the years to come.
I think so too. And I think ultimately it just takes away from the goal that this team has been so united towards. Now you have other news that you're talking about, and to your same point, who is going to be at the helm? Well, Spokane said that they were going to conduct a national search. Jo's obviously going to lead them through to the remainder of the season, wherever that point comes from them. And then a national search will be conducted for the head coach of the 2026-2027 season. So it does, in your mind as a player, make you start to wonder, all right, well, if this isn't going to be an internal promotion, and it may very well be, we don't know that information, but we do know that they're going to look high and wide. And that does leave you with some uncertainty in a time specifically when you need to be focused on the exact same goal, because, you are right in the thick of it.
Right in the thick of it. Spokane just has 2 games left this season, and we'll get to all the playoff predictions. But this is also the lone Super League team on the West Coast. So there is a lot of travel asked from these players and coaches. I just think of the demand as we look forward to the seasons to come, with Sporting Jacks joining the league this upcoming season. This was the first time Johnson has been in that Spokane market. She obviously was from Oklahoma. That's a whole change for her young family, as you added, her husband, her life. There's so many different roles that you wear in the first year as a coach for a brand new league, a brand new club. There is a lot that changes. We have no idea why Johnson made this decision, except for the fact that she wants to go back to the collegiate level and she wants to focus on her family.
And I want to be clear, we are not at all trying to say that we know the best decision for Joe Johnson in her career. Not whatsoever. Ultimately, that decision is hers and her family's alone. And I admire anyone who's going to put their family first. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, let's be honest, it's all you have.
Yep.
And
Preach.
so I want to be clear that what Anna and I are talking about has nothing to do with the actual decision that was made. What Anna and I are discussing is the timing of that announcement,
Yeah.
and potentially the different options that you could have had, making sure you can tell the players, right, in a very intimate way. If you feel like they need to know that going into the season, you can also very much go win a title and then say, hey, you know what, I'm going out on top. This is what's best for me and my family. I didn't want to distract focus away from anybody. Have no idea the discussions behind why the timing of the release, but I just want to be clear that in no way are Anna and I saying this is not the correct decision for her. And if anything, Joe Johnson has been probably one of the brightest, and potentially go on to the playoff run that she might have, she could potentially win Coach of the Year.
Oh, absolutely. And I think selfishly, I'm sad, right, that
Same.
Johnson's leaving. I've loved
Love her, actually.
Every conversation we have with her. She gives us really good insight into
Yeah.
the team, into what she's trying to
Very
build in
transparent.
Spokane. Transparent. Agree. This isn't about the decision to leave, because whatever these people feel like is the right decision for them is the right decision for them. It's just the timing is a little interesting as we get closer to playoffs. So we wish Coach Johnson and her family the best, but we still got at least 2 games with her before Spokane's season potentially ends. Let's go into some Lexington news, because Lexington will be launching a fully funded pro girls academy that will kick off this fall. The U14 age group will be the first age group, and then they will expand to U16 and U19 over the next 2 years. Registration fees, uniforms, training gear is covered, Marion. The families will have to pay for the travel expenses. And the academy will compete in ECNL, and players will then have a chance to sign an academy contract with Lexington SC, which is a really cool feature of all this. This is so much soccer for young girls. So exciting that Lexington is providing this opportunity. But it also begs the question, what is your take on launching a fully funded pro girls academy this upcoming fall?
Well, I think the wording of fully funded is a little interesting in this scenario, given the fact that travel expenses are not met. That aside, and we can talk about it. That aside, look, they said in the press release it's a comprehensive initiative to provide elite female athletes with high quality environment without financial barriers. One of the things that I think has been on a lot of people and a lot of discussions around the country as soccer, specifically women's soccer, continues to grow, the barriers to access this sport have not become any more accessible, despite, you being able to see it on TV more, hear about it in the news more, things being covered more. Oftentimes the access to the entry point access is ridden with some financial barriers, given where the youth programs have gone at this point. When you and I were playing, right, yes, there were some expensive things associated to it, but it was nowhere near the level that it is right now, given the ECNL, the travel with the ECNL, which this group will play under, the high level showcases, all of those things cost money. And so I want to be clear that I love the intent of this Lexington Sporting Club and their commitment to see the fact that that's a problem. As soccer continues to grow, we need to make sure the barriers to access it are removed, regardless of your financial background. And I absolutely applaud them for that. They will compete in the ECNL, and the players eligible to sign will be eligible to sign academy contracts with the Super League team if they make it.
Yeah.
I think, and I know you want to touch on this, I think it's interesting to say it's fully funded without the travel aspect included. However, I do think giving access to whomever deserves it a high quality training environment where you're going to have individually developed plans given to you every quarter. You are going to be able to see what it means to be a professional. You are going to be able to have these tactical, these strength focused, these nutrition focused discussions that really hone into you as a soccer player. I think that is all absolutely wonderful. But I'm curious, Anna, because you and I were talking off air about your take kind of on this fully funded aspect of it and what it means really for young players to be that committed.
Huge commitment, right? When a club is funding you to play at such a young age, it's amazing. I mean, I know fees, uniforms, training gear is expensive. You
Yeah,
even have to pay the fields to be able to practice and play on the fields. I remember
absolutely.
that being like a whole thing when we were younger. So I think it's an amazing initiative for Lexington to take this on. And one thing we constantly hear from coaches at the professional level is, I wish I had Jane Doe at 13 years old so
At
that I could have
100%. Yep.
molded her into a player that fits our system because she's almost there. But what she was trained at a younger age is just taking her back a few steps. So I feel like this Pro Girls Academy is going to set a standard that helps players grow into the system that they could eventually be in, and having that pathway to the Super League. That's what USL is all about, these amazing
Amen.
pathways. And I love that. I do agree with you, though. Travel is expensive. Looking at the economy right now and how much airline flights cost, it is so expensive to travel in these ECNL systems to these tournaments. But I think you have to start somewhere, right? Like,
That's the point. That's the point. And
yeah,
that's why like the fact that they understand that this is a need,
yeah,
absolute
totally.
huge kudos. Where we will go next is being able to continue to fund travel and showcases and whatever for players across the country. But what Lexington is doing is unique. And not many clubs can say that. And also, not many clubs, especially in the USL, can even say that they have that kind of holistic pathway within their own organization. And I think Lexington's going to continue to pave the way in that. It's just a matter of other teams seeing that recognition now. That's my
Right.
challenge to everybody else, is seeing that it is a need, and it is a problem, and following Lexington's order. And then perhaps we push the envelope and we see if we can't get truly those financial backgrounds or those financial restrictions removed.
Absolutely. And I think we see it a lot of the times in Europe, especially on the men's
Mm.
side, these young players being fully funded to do things, and then they get to play on this amazing level. You got to build from somewhere. And I think USL, again, going down to the bottom, going down to academy and helping those players build to Super League Championship players is awesome. So excited to see Lexington launch that this fall. We'll definitely be following the progress, and hopefully we'll be able to chat with someone to get more information on just how all this is going to play out. Well, we're going to take a quick break because we've got the schedule to chat about. Yes, the 25-26 schedule is out. We've got some playoff predictions, and Fort Lauderdale's Cosette Morché joins the show. It's game week on Sirius XM.
Bringing you up to date on all the action from a busy weekend of women's soccer. This is USL Super League Game Week on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome back into game week on Sirius XM. Well, we gave you some postseason predictions 6 weeks ago. Marion and I were on the same page about 3 of the teams and where they would be placed. There was just one team in particular that we went back and forth on. I know that my lineup 6 weeks ago was Fort Lauderdale would be in first place, Carolina in second, Dallas in third, Tampa Bay in fourth. Wow. Have things really changed? But Marion, I want to hear from your perspective first, how you look at your first 4 and where you're at now.
Well, Dallas has really let me down because I had them at number one, and with just one win in their last five, 2 games remaining, max points they can get 46. To put that into perspective, Tampa Bay and Carolina would need to lose the remaining matches for Dallas to be on level playing field, and that's just not going to happen. So I'm a bit disappointed in my number one pick. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, Fort Lauderdale was my number 1 pick, and they haven't won a game since March 15th. We're on the same page. The fact that we didn't see Carolina in that first spot, they are so
We
far
look like
ahead.
idiots.
Yeah, 46 points on the season. If they beat Tampa Bay this weekend, they will clinch the Shield. So a lot riding
Yep.
for Carolina this weekend. They've already clinched the lone playoff spot so far. I would have put Spokane in my prediction. Now I have them in that fourth spot, but it still is a toss-up between Spokane and Fort Lauderdale. Dallas is now in that third place. I see Tampa Bay staying in that second spot.
Yeah, it's interesting about to your point about Fort Lauderdale that I'll go back on. 4 games remaining still. Okay, so a lot of teams are going to be looking at what Fort Lauderdale can do down the stretch. But specifically, this trio of Dallas, Fort Lauderdale, Spokane, you mentioned Spokane. If they win one of their 2 matches, they have a match against DC, right? They win that, then that forces 2 things to happen. It forces Fort Lauderdale to have to win 4 of the 4 remaining, one of them against Spokane, okay? And then it also forces Dallas to have 2 positive results, a win and a draw, and then they would go into potentially a tiebreaker. So a lot a lot of people are looking at Spokane, and a lot of people, especially Dallas fans, are looking at Fort Lauderdale because ultimately that's the one with the remaining games left. That's the team that you need to be most concerned about.
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale has 4 games left, and we are recording this Tuesday afternoon. So the DC Spokane game has not happened yet. But if DC does win that game, Tampa Bay will clinch a playoff spot. Let's talk about this upcoming schedule, Marion, because it's the 25-26 schedule released last week. Match day 1 will kick off on Saturday, August 23rd. There are going to be 4 matches on that day. So it'll be Sporting Jacks. The new Sporting Jacks will take on DC Power. Brooklyn will take on Tampa Bay. Dallas will take on Spokane. Fort Lauderdale will take on Lexington. Carolina will be the only team on week 1 that does not see a match. And then the season will wrap on May 16th. The playoffs will stay the same. We'll still have the 4 top teams make the playoffs. And then the final will be the weekend of May 30th. So things are condensed. We started the season August 17th in 2024, and now we're wrapping up the season the weekend of June 14th will be the final weekend of Super League this season. A more condensed schedule, but how do you read this schedule? What excites you about this upcoming season?
I like that it's condensed. I think that that's going to put a bit more emphasis on the substitutions and having depth, which I think a lot of teams did that come the spring season, and that's why we've seen the quality of play rise a bit. But what I'm most interested for is the lessons learned, right? Which coaches can look back at this season and say, okay, we really didn't have a true preseason. Here's what we missed out on, right? Because the league was just getting started. Everyone's going to have to they're going to get to have a true preseason. And also, you heard a lot of people talk in the spring season about the difficulties dealing with the schedule that no one had really understood before. They'd never really gone through it before. And so which coaches can really hone in on the things that worked well from that fall to spring transition, like a Phillip Poole in Carolina, and implement that from the jump, and which ones are like, hey, none of it worked out for us, right? Looking at you, Brooklyn, what can we do to change how we approach this in the second season? That's what I'm most excited for, these lesson learned perspective type moments.
It's going to be interesting to see, too, in year 2, how this league continues to just plan out their spring and their fall season, because they essentially were 2 different seasons this year. They had that break, and each team took them differently, and each team has had different results since that break between the fall and the spring. So it's going to be a whole new year. Adding a new team into the fold adds a lot of different aspects to the season, but this is a whole new experience for the players, for the coaches this past year, and it was a learning experience that they take into 25-26. But we're not done here yet, Marion. We do have match day 33 on the horizon. Of course, yesterday, DC and Spokane played, but for sake of us recording Tuesday afternoon, not sure how that result ends, but we do have Lexington versus Fort Lauderdale Friday at 6 o'clock. Carolina will take on Tampa Bay Saturday at 7 o'clock to wrap up the weekend. These games can all be watched on Peacock. Well, we've got a really fun interview for you. Fort Lauderdale's Cosette Morché joins the show. She talked about her experience overseas, some of the things that she's wanting to improve on in goal, what it's been like playing in so many different styles so far this season in Fort Lauderdale. And then, of course, we talked about fashion, all the things. So stay tuned. This is Game Week on Sirius XM.
Bringing you up to date on all the action from a busy weekend of women's soccer. This is USL Super League Game Week on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome back to Game Week on SiriusXM. We are now joined by Fort Lauderdale goalkeeper Cosette Morché. Cosette, thank you so much for joining the show. I mean, this is a Fort Lauderdale team where you guys went into the spring guns a-blazing, and now your team has not seen a win since March 15th, but you have some really fun individual pieces from the start of the spring to now. What are some pieces that you guys need to get back into place to find yourself back on track in these last four?
I think it's just the basics. I think we have all it takes to win and to be in the playoffs. So as long as we can get back to what we know and continue to fight as a team, I think, no doubt we're still in this and we're ready to fight for playoffs.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where internally the noise is one thing, externally the noise is a different thing, right? So take me inside the locker room for a second, right? Wait, two players here with you, and typically there's always going to be that, especially down the playoff stretch, that player-led leadership where someone's saying, "Hey, don't look there, don't look there, only look here." So who is that player in the locker room for Fort Lauderdale that really has everybody kind of on the same page?
I think our team actually has a lot of leaders or people that are willing to speak up. I do think obviously Addie McCain is our captain, and she, is always going to be there for us and try to pick us up when we maybe aren't at our best. So I think obviously Addie is a big part in that. I think we do have some older players who do bring a lot of experience, and I would say, including myself, I feel like we do have that strong team leadership aspect where we're able to hold ourselves accountable, but also keep us at a very level-headed spot where, we're not going to get too big-headed when we're, doing really well. Obviously all the teams in this league are good, and every time we do step out on the field, it is going to be a battle. So it's just kind of believing in ourselves and making sure the team is coming together as a whole and not just individual based.
That's where we've seen teams this season get back on track, is when they really lean on each other in times of ebb and flow. I mean, you guys play a fall and spring schedule. There is time for everything to happen. So it's been really fun to watch your team. And you had mentioned yourself being one of those players who has the experience. You've played overseas. Now you're back in the States. As a goalkeeper, how are you being tested differently here in the States in the Super League than when you were being tested in Spain and in France?
I do feel like here, honestly, our league is really good, and it's just competitive overall. Every team is a battle. It's not just the two top teams and everyone else is you have to worry about them. You have to worry about every team. And I think as a goalkeeper, being out in the field, I know I have to be consistent and perform each game. I can't just turn off. I have to be fully focused every game. So just having that mentality of just being on and fully in the moment, just that I'm gonna be there and try my best every single game, and just supporting my teammates when things might not be going great, and I have to continue to bring that positivity and that leadership in the back to make sure that we are consistently stable as a team and then being not as individualized.
And goalkeepers are always tasked, right, with that verbal responsibility. There's no doubt about that. But one thing that you specifically have been tasked with, and this is just one thing that I applaud your team style of play, I've said it multiple times on this show, is the commitment to use you as part of the build out, right? And that's something that has shifted with goalkeepers in the modern way that we play, is that, it's oftentimes seeing now where we've got center backs spread further than the 18-yard box. Goalkeeper steps up to be that third center back and is expected to be just as comfortable on the ball as the field players in front of him or her. Talk to me about what's given you that type of confidence, because I've told Anna, obviously on the show, but also just off air, that a lot of your ability to step up and help in the build out has been one of the most positive aspects for this Fort Lauderdale side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do feel like playing overseas and having a different style of play kind of helped me, prepare for, the style of play that we're playing here. I think, we're not just wanting to just be a kickball team. We really want to possess, and we want to get our wingers and outside backs forward so we can have numbers up. And I think, our coaching staff want that from us, and from me specifically, to join in and to be a leader and to be able to make decisions and not necessarily play make, but to feel comfortable on the ball. I do feel like, it has been, from the beginning of the season, like it's been a learning thing, a learning curve. It's definitely, you know, as a goalkeeper, it's changed. The role has changed. You have to
Yes.
be comfortable on the ball. So, yeah, I must say, like, it's been kind of fun. Like, I like being on the ball more.
She's going to turn into a
That's good.
midfielder. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's nice to be involved more. And sometimes when we do change the formation and I'm not as involved, I feel like I'm not doing anything and I just don't feel like it's right.
FOMO.
Yeah, no, but I definitely feel like the way that we're playing and that I'm more involved has really helped us like get numbers up. It has been a really big part of our game, and hopefully it continues to help us.
There's been, a little bit of a change in general to how you guys play from the fall to the spring and even throughout the spring, which has been cool to see. And not just the league's first season, but you guys as a club first season, there are a lot of young players on your team. So kudos to how you guys have played of late in that system. I read, Cosette, where you were a 3-sport athlete for a while. It was basketball, soccer, and volleyball, and you almost went with volleyball. So why did you
Yeah.
land on soccer?
Well, I started playing soccer at age 4, so it was the one thing that was consistent throughout my life. Like I don't know, I loved it. And then I don't know if you saw, but I ended up quitting soccer for a year and tried out volleyball and tried to stick with that. But I don't know, something about
Wait, when did that happen? How old were you when that happened?
it was in high school, like my freshman year of high school. That's the time when you kind of have to start deciding, if you're wanting to go play a certain sport in college. Like around that time is when you kind of have to like put all your effort into it. So yeah, I decided to stop playing soccer and stick with volleyball, and then I like realized how much I missed it. So then I got back into it, and yeah, I don't know, something about goalkeeping just I don't know why, but I'm a bit crazy for saying this, but getting hit with the freaking ball just I don't know, I missed it.
Niche. That's a very niche
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
hobby. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. No, well, you may not know this, and this might be a little creepy for a second. You and I actually just missed playing against each other when you transferred to Texas A&M and I was at Georgia. You came in 2017, I believe it was, to
Yeah.
A&M. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and I was a 2016 was my last actual season, but
Okay.
started commentating for SEC Network, covered you, know G very well.
Okay.
And is a very, very difficult man to play for at times. Absolutely wonderful, but it expects a lot.
Hmm.
Talk to me though, just kind of, and you pair that with what you've been able to do at the pro level and the different leagues that you've been able to go and be successful in. And then Anna just mentioned it, what that's meant for you here at the Super League. But I want you to go internal for us and take it from, betting on yourself from being Louisiana Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns going up to one of the powerhouse schools in the SEC and being a stud there, then going overseas to play, right? Having some time in the NWSL. Internally, what's been the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself through all those different changes?
Definitely just, believing in myself and knowing like that I'm capable of it. I think, when I did transfer from Louisiana Lafayette, it was scary. It's always like difficult putting yourself out there and changing schools and being in the transfer portal. Like you never know what's going to happen. I was thankful enough to have the opportunity to go to Texas A&M. I think that really like, upped my game. It kind of gave me that confidence and the little like I don't know, like the basics that you can I guess continue to work on, because I feel like sometimes you have to go back to the basics and then build yourself back up again. So I kind of felt like that's how it was at A&M. Like it was kind of I had all what it took, but I just needed a little bit of coaching. I definitely feel like over my professional career, I've been very coachable. I'm always wanting to get better and always wanting to improve. So um, I must say, like being coachable has been a huge part of my success. I'm
Mm.
definitely like open to, not changing, but like helping improve myself every day. I know I'm a certain type of goalkeeper and I know my strengths, and I know like, your strengths, you continue to work on them and it's just going to continue to like push you and push you. Obviously, like there's things that you can continue to work on that might not be like your strengths, but
Yeah.
you can't just focus on just the weaknesses. I wouldn't even call them weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't just focus on
Yeah.
those because you won't continue to push the ceiling if you're so focused on the maybe the things you're not the best at. Like you can't continue to push the top. You're just going to kind of like settle.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when you start to push like your strength up, then the other ones start to follow as well. So I just feel like having that mentality of always wanting to improve each and every, like each day, and just being able to be coachable has really helped me in this journey.
Awesome.
At Penn State, we used to call our weaknesses our lesser strengths. So if you want to steal that
I
one,
like that. I
go
like
for it.
that.
We joked about it, but like in all seriousness, like it is great. It's just your lesser strength. It's not your
Yeah.
strength.
I don't really like think like when you say weaknesses, it just you're kind of just like saying like you're not good at it. And I just don't believe that. You can be, decent at something and just not have it be the best thing you're like good at. But
Right.
I don't think it's a weakness.
Well, you bring up a really fun conversation because we always talk about, what makes a goalkeeper good, a midfielder, or a defender good. But then obviously there's things that you do want to work on. You've accomplished so much at the professional level. But what is one thing in your game right now that you've worked on this spring that you're like, all right, by the time next season rolls around, I want to make sure I'm great at this?
Honestly, it is like playing with my feet, but it's not just like it's the decision making with the ball at my feet. I think there are always like specific like it's like scanning the field while you're playing and knowing what's available before you even get the ball.
Hmm.
And that's something that I've been trying to improve on and continue to work on throughout the season. It is not easy. It's basically like trying to read the play, but also, it's like a split second where that option can be taken away. So you still have to be aware, but also you can't just hit a ball blindly. Like you have to be sure that that's going to be like on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a delicate balance of understanding the relationships on the field too, right? And to Anna's point, you guys have changed a lot of things up, and not to say that's something that you can't handle, but it does make life a little difficult for a goalkeeper because you start to learn how certain people play, check to you, check away from you, the runs they make, all those things, and that's obviously going to impact your decision making. That being said, though, we are all about what the girlies are up to and the relationships that everybody is building. We've heard from everywhere across the league that like book club is a thing, right? That like everyone's into some sort of reality TV somewhere. So tell us, in the Fort Lauderdale locker room, what are the girlies doing?
Honestly, I feel like we're all a bit sporadic on what we like. But
Right, what are you
actually,
doing? What are you doing?
gosh, I mean, I think a lot of us love the beach, and thank goodness we're in
Yeah.
this location, so
Yeah, I
we
can
could
tell by
just.
your horrible tan.
I
Not
know. I
fair.
feel. I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm not that tan. And everyone sees me and they're like, girl, you're so tan. You need to
Yeah,
just
you
like
need to
chill.
stop.
No,
Yeah.
I'm using like
Look
say
at Anna and
bronzing
I.
drops.
Yeah.
I look like a
I
ghost,
blend
and
in
I'm
with the
wearing
walls.
bronzing drops, guys. Like, help me out. Send me some of that tan. The other thing you're good at, Cosette, is the braids. Like we see it on your Instagram. The fact that you have your hands up and are braiding your entire head. Like I thought for a long time someone was doing it for you, but that's all you, girl. Like, how did
Yeah.
you learn to do that?
My shoulders hurt.
It's
I know.
yeah, my it is a shoulder workout, not gonna lie. Every day, every game day, I'm like, do I really want to braid my hair today? No, but I ever since college, I've just had my hair braided for games, and my teammates would do it for me. But whenever I went overseas to play professionally, I didn't have a team braider anymore. I don't know. I don't know why. So I had to teach myself. And yeah, I just taught myself, and then every year went by, and it just got better and better. It didn't look good in the beginning, but yeah, it's
It
been
was a
like
lesser strength of yours at the beginning.
yes. No, I didn't know how to braid at all. Like I barely knew how to French braid someone else's hair. So yeah, it took a lot of time, but I mean, 6 to 7 years later, I finally think I got it nailed down. So
That's hilarious. Tell us who's in charge because I'm looking at which the Fort Lauderdale website for all of our viewers. If you haven't had a chance to go do it, they have lovely fun facts about most every single one of their players. It's actually a very fun read.
Mhm.
And on here, obviously, Cosette, one of yours is some favorite music artists: Post Malone, Rihanna, Chris Brown, all very good taste. So,
Yeah.
are you in charge of the aux or? Who's in charge of the aux on game day? And does it
So
change road versus home?
no, so typically it's always Jasmine.
Mm.
But
Kind of
I must,
surprised.
yeah, I must say, like, I feel like I'd be really good on the aux, but I think
Do you
Give
want
her
to
a
like
chance.
you
Give
have
her a
the
chance.
floor. Tell them why.
I just, I don't know. I feel like sometimes what I listen to before, on game days might not be everybody's like cup of tea. I
Mm.
love female rap as well. Like, I think
Like, are
that's
we into
like,
trap music? Like, are we into like what is it?
so I'm not into trap music. I think some of the other girls might be, and so that we do listen to a lot of that
I
on
am.
game days.
I am.
But I don't mind a little bit of trap. I like to mix it up a bit, but I am all about like female empowerment, like female rap. I don't know what it is,
Love
but it
that.
just like gets me excited to play. So
I
I
love
love
that.
that. The other thing that you're really good at on game day is the game day fits. Like I really appreciate how you
thanks.
show up, you show out. Where are we getting these fits? And like who are some teammates that you're like sending pictures to and saying, does this look good? You know, what's the process for you?
So I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the times I walk in with Addie. But Addie
Okay.
and I, we always kind of try to link up our outfits and see what the vibe is. Sometimes we don't always hit, but we still walk out together.
No,
But
you guys
yeah,
always do a great job, honestly.
okay, that's good. Yeah, I think recently I've Meshki has like sent me some outfits and that's been kind of fun. So like,
Wow.
yeah,
Let
that's
us
been
see
fun.
them. Okay, well, you're gonna be, I have it pinned, Anna, that I feel like she's gonna be like our biggest like USL Super League influencer.
Yes.
And between her and Jorian, like
And
on the
vodka.
same
Oh,
team, like
yeah.
come
Well,
on.
yeah,
And yeah, and Lavini.
Jorian's outfits, she's always on fire. I'm always telling her like so good.
So good.
Yeah.
Has she whipped out the soccer ball purse lately?
No, not recently, but I loved that. I think she
Me
did that when
too.
she was at DC. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we talked to her
Yeah.
about that. That was really cute. And what's
So
like
cute.
what are you thinking about in terms of trends this summer, trends going into the fall? Like is there one store or one place you're going to for some of your looks?
I honestly like I don't know if you've seen, but a lot of like beaded bags are in and kind of like fun necklaces, like really colorful, like bright and vibrant.
Mhm.
Boho
Um,
is back, girly.
yeah, and I'm excited about it,
Me
but
too.
I think Zara has a lot of really good pieces out.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
literally just made a purchase this morning. I'm with you on the Zara train. Mango's another
Okay.
good one if you like Zara. I feel like
Yeah.
living in Fort Lauderdale, you have a lot of options. Like I'm not sure I could wear the beaded bag downtown Charlotte, you know?
Oh, yes, you could.
Yeah.
Oh
You
my
think so?
goodness. Stop with that. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I
Absolutely.
do think we're a bit lucky with having like the beach vibe and also the
True.
city vibes. So you can like change it up here.
True.
Yeah, like I wouldn't feel comfortable wearing a lot of the outfits I wear here, like in, I don't know, New York or something. I wouldn't dare.
That's
She
fair.
said I wouldn't dare. You know what else is coming back? Are girls actually wearing like kit tops? That is making a comeback as well, which I feel like Fort Lauderdale, Miami area is prime for that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
actually sick. I need to hop on that trend for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question for me on your game day routines. Coffee, matcha, neither,
So,
big breakfast. What do
so
we do?
I love coffee and I love matcha, but I won't allow myself to have it on game days. If I'm gonna have
God,
caffeine, it'll
you
be,
guys.
You and
but
Audrey
if
Harding.
I have caffeine on game days, but it's in a pill form. So
What?
I so like
Blown
caffeine
away
pills.
at this moment.
It's so
Caffeine
it's
pills? What are you
yeah.
talking about? What is this?
Yeah. You've never heard of a caffeine pill?
No. I've
Anna, look,
never.
Anna and I are old, okay?
Okay. Well, I think that for me, I just don't want anything to upset my stomach. So that's why I just stick to the
Mm,
basics.
Where are
Like
you
if
getting a
mm.
caffeine pill? Who turned you on to this?
um I think well, you know how Excedrin is like when you have a headache, it has caffeine in it
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's Tylenol. So I
yeah.
always like if I got really tired, I used to take one of those, but I was like, I don't need Tylenol. So then I just looked up if there's caffeine pills, and there was. So,
Oh,
That's
wow.
insane.
What
That's
a
yeah.
insane. We
that
need to
is
do a case study and see if these actually work or if it's just
I
placebo in
know.
her head.
Oh, it works. It works.
Okay.
For sure.
That is crazy. I feel like I was the opposite. On game days, I was like, normally like when I was in college, like pro trialist, I was like 2 cups a day. Like I'm good. Game days, I was like, I need 6. And all of you that come on the show are like, no, I don't have coffee on game
No
day. I'm like, what has
coffee.
changed?
Well,
What has
trust me,
changed?
I do caffeine. I do a lot of caffeine, but I just don't want to, I don't want to try to mix like matcha and coffee in my stomach. I don't know. I just feel like I'd
I'm
be
with you.
sensitive.
Totally
I'm with you also
understand.
because matcha tastes like earth, I'm told. So I'm not going to try it.
Yeah.
I love matcha.
The younger the girls get, Marion, like the more aware they are of the wellness space of it all. So honestly, Cosette, good on you. Good on you. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. It's been so good to get to know you. Best of luck in these last 4 games. We're definitely cheering you on, and we cannot wait to see how this season ends. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us this week on Game Week. You can tune in every single Wednesday on the SiriusXM app, or you can join us on USL's YouTube page. Please leave us a review. Let us know in the comments who you want to hear from, what kind of conversations you would like us to have, and maybe what your playoff predictions might be as we head into match day 33. Well, for Marion Crowder, I'm Anna Witte. We'll see you next Wednesday. Enjoy the games this weekend.
You've been listening to USL Super League Game Week on SiriusXM FC.